I'm early, folks, because I wanted to test to make sure my camera was working. I tried it someplace else and it wasn't. Oh, wait. I haven't put in my earbuds yet. Earbuds? Whatever. I hope that's better.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi. Who's that?
Carmen.
Hello. Hello. I'm just finishing something up. 1 second. Hi. Okay. I'm all here. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So Anik is here. Carmen's here. Barbara's here. Bernice. Hi, Bernice. Karen, Shiona, Sylvia, Carol. I don't know who administrator is. Is that you, Joey?
Yeah.
Hi, Joey.
Hi.
Hi, it's good to hear you, girl.
Wow.
It is really good to hear you. Hello. I'm just gonna try something. A light is missing, so I'll be right back. Hold on, y'all. I'll be right back. Wow.
Hi, Lee.
Okay.
Hi! Who's that?
Carmen.
Hi!
Get myself organized again. Okay. Hello. Okay, Janine has arrived. Kat is here. Who else has joined us? Oh my goodness. It is so good to see so many of you here. Hello. Now, I don't have anything muted yet, so if you do not want the sounds or conversations happening in your part of the world to show up, you might want to mute yourself. And if you're on a touch tone phone, I think it's *6 to do that. And if you're joining us through the online, you can either mute your microphone. Hi, who just leaned down? Hi, Lee. That's awesome. You can either mute your microphone, or if you don't want to be visible, you can mute your video so the camera is not taking pictures either. Okay. I just want to say hello to everybody before we dived in. Oh my God, Anya's here, Kim is here, call-in user 1. I don't know why the system is doing that, but hello, call-in user number 1. It's good to have you here. Janine is here, Jen is here, Kat is here. Oh my goodness, so good to see y'all. I'm opening up the chat too. Hi, Sylvia, Jen. So the chat is open. I want y'all to know that Bobby is traveling, so she's not going to be here, and she isn't going to pop stuff into the chat for us. Okay, so for those of you who catch stuff and it's easy for you to type, yeah, that light is still not working. I wonder what's going on. Can you guys see me all right? I'm in shadow on this side because my trusty light's not working. Can you see me okay?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Good.
All right, thank you all.
I like your haircut.
Oh, thanks. Yesterday. Isn't that nice? So I'm going to mute everybody, and then we'll dive into what we're going to talk about and cover this today for February. So if you want to, if you catch stuff and you're a quick typer and you don't mind putting it in the chat so everybody can grab it, awesome. If not, I just want you to know I'm going to send out a rough outline of what I talk about. There's not going to be an awful lot of detail, but there'll be room for you to pop your notes into the outline, and it will go out tomorrow with the link to the replay, okay? So it won't be nearly as detailed, but there'll be something, okay? So I'm going to mute everybody. Bye. I'll talk to you later.
So total.
Okay. If you have questions, please hold them right to the end. Maybe take a quick note on a piece of paper and then come back towards the end, because I'm not really going to pay too much attention to the chat right now. My focus doesn't split very well. Okay. All right. So it's another big month. And I want to ask you a question about the possibility of doing a class, because as I was preparing and going deeper into what's going on, so I could share things with you today, I recognized that there's some humdinger stuff that's coming. And after last year's eclipse stuff, particularly in North America, particularly for the United States, it made sense to me to ask you this question, but I'll hold it till the end, okay? So if I forget to ask the question, can someone remind me? Lisa, what was your question? Okay? Okay, thank you. So first, I want to remind you that there's 3 huge backbeats all year long, okay? So let's just touch in with those first so we remember that they are having impact all year long, all right? So the first one is Jupiter, our fortune finder, who's hanging out in Scorpio, and we'll be there till the end of November. And that's a big deal. If you want to refresh, go back to your notes. We looked at this in October, the end of October for November. So it's the replay that you likely got towards the end of October. All right? Then the second big backbeat is Saturn, our inner guru, who's hanging out in Capricorn and will be until 2020. It's a big deal. Okay? And again, check back with your notes. We reviewed this and its meaning in an overarching way at the end of November, looking particularly for December. Okay, so look for the replay link then, or look for your notes then. And then the third one is Uranus, who's been in Aries for quite some time, okay? And will be until the 15th of May. And boy, oh boy, you know, that is in large part, not exclusively, but in large part responsible for the 6 or 7 years of social unrest and the push for equality, for human rights, for the recognition of where we're blind, all kinds of really important things. Now, that's the last backbeat. It's a really big deal. It's been having an awful lot of impact on us in terms of purposepreneurship and raising voices we don't commonly hear, okay? It's been raising voices we don't commonly hear, putting them in the spotlight and having all of us kind of go, whoa, because it out of the blue stuff, status quo shifting or busting, okay? It's a big deal. May 15th is a big day. And that's, again, I said, that's the question I want us to ponder later. So those are the 3 big backbeats. I'll come back to the third towards the end of today's review. Now let's look at February's new themes. So all that's in the background, still very, very big deal. When we looked at 2018, I told you it was going to be a year of power, money, and women. Remember? Okay. So February is about power and women. Some of this kicked up and started in January. It continues in February. The money stuff is in the background and really doesn't come to the focus till later in the year, but power and women, holy mackerel. And that stays hot and potent and very, very much alive and in the focus of things, archetypally anyway, because of January 31st full super blue moon total lunar eclipse. Okay, let me say that again. So it's a full super blue moon plus a total lunar eclipse. Okay, and it's in Leo, which is kind of a big deal. And I'm going to dive into that first, but I want to tell you about the second eclipse that happens in February, and it's on the 15th, and it's an Aquarius new moon partial solar eclipse. Okay? All right. So, and by the way, that date, the 15th, is also when the Chinese New Year begins, and we shift into what the Chinese call Earth Dog Year. You may want to explore that to find out more. I'm not a specialist, so I'm not going to offer you much other than to let you know it happens simultaneously. What I have noticed in doing my own research is it coincides with a lot of stuff, a lot of the big themes of the year too. So just go do your research. There's other voices out there that are better at it than I, so I'm going to leave that to your own curiosity. So let's take a look at the first one, January 31st. Now, I know that's technically not February, but because when we have a full moon, it's the day before, the day of, and the day after, which is February 1st. So, and it's a full super blue moon. So it's one of the most potent you can get. And have that teamed up with a total lunar eclipse is kind of a big deal. We have, just for the record, we've got 5 eclipses this year. So this is the first of the 5. The second of the 5 happens on the 15th of February. Shebang, shebang. So, my goodness. So I'm calling this the moon of the superwoman. In case that's interesting. Now, I don't mean the traditional, you know, with the cape and the emblem on her chest and the blonde hair. I don't mean that at all. The woman that comes in most into focus and is of greatest concern to this particular Leo full super blue moon with lunar eclipse is the single mom and moms, working moms in particular. But it's about women in general. This particular supermoon, full moon, blue moon, etc., focuses attention on what it is to be a superwoman. What does that mean? What does it take? What do we think when we think that phrase? What are the signals that tell the story of that? Are they in need of an update? I vote that they are. Social discussions, political debate, social justice conversations are going to be particularly hot. They'll be sparked by this. Not that they haven't been happening anyway, but it gives it some extra, okay? And it will bring into conversation or heat up and bring into the spotlight conversations around parenting styles and rights, custody rights, maternity leave, childcare, equal pay, equal work, all kinds of stuff. The rights, conditions of women that doesn't negate traditional points of view and the validity of some of those points of view, but at the same time wants to culture quake and have us fold in and include rights and freedoms that are progressive and that include single working women, and an update to our sensibilities about all those things. Now, the thing that I'm noticing most of all is that this one wants to return power, or to have us touch it, us meaning women, through mothering and work in a way I haven't quite seen before. It puts it, because this is all happening in Leo, and because it coincides with a lunar eclipse or a solar eclipse, it is particularly heated and potent, and it wants to put it in the spotlight. Whether those of us who have something to say or something to see or something to reconcile want to be in the spotlight or not. Okay? Just saying. It will demand that we collectively and perhaps individually rethink about the polarities in our lives relating to these things. And in particular, the role of women and the power of women in family, in work, and in society. Asking us, do we have the right balance? What does that even look like? And do your notions of balance, are they contained or controlled by the cultural story? Okay? Okay. Now, this also will require us to let go, creatively let go of aspects of that cultural story that don't serve us anymore. And that's a phrase that's really tired, and I'm sorry to be using it, but I want you to know that essentially, if there's a way that you're conforming and you don't know that you are, or you do know that you are, and it's been hard to help yourself migrate out, transition out. The potency of this one will kind of go, okay, you're going in the spotlight. It's time to put your life in the middle of things. Okay, your rights, your freedoms, what you're actually entitled to exercise your power as a woman. Because the effect of you not doing that allows the culture to continue the way that it has been. Not going to happen. Okay? It's going to require that we adjust to new circumstances. And that's probably going to rise up from the middle of us. Not just as women in general. So this calls out the feminine. It wants a more sovereign, feminine presence in culture. And I don't mean female, I mean feminine. It will go out of its way to create new opportunities for growth of the sovereign feminine. It may even feel at times like it's goading us into growth because of the potency of this. Yeah. Now, consider that just less than a week ago, we saw the second Women's March that was really sizable in the United States, but had echoing events all around the world. Okay? If as a woman, you are not yet living your calling, or you're 1 foot in and 1 foot out because someplace you're conforming to traditional and outmoded, in need of an update, rules, as a woman, bye-bye. Okay? Everybody cool with this so far? Any questions? Okay. It's a huge thing. So, here's some questions to mull over while you interact with this. Questions that you can use with clients. Yeah. So, first one, are you ruling? And just for the record, the word ruling needs a revision. What does that mean? What does it really mean? Are you ruling with your emotions, or are your emotions ruling you? Remember, sovereign feminine oversees the world of emotional intelligence. And given the moon is so active in this, emotional intelligence, emotional wisdom, all that is alive and very central. It also has us recognize that we cannot proceed without connection to emotional wisdom and emotional intelligence, period. That is where connection and empathy comes from. Okay, so are you ruling with your emotions, or are your emotions ruling you and taking you off your throne? Okay? Who am I? Am I my body, or my emotions, my past, my present, my future? Who am I? Who am I? Because in order to move towards and begin to partner with what's here, we kind of have to reevaluate who we are, because this wants to fold in more of sovereign femininity. Okay? Should I go for what I want? Or should I wait until I see other details fit into the picture? Can I do both at the same time? What would an emotionally wise and emotionally intelligent, emotionally connected response to that be? And if I was sovereign, what would I do? And how? Should I put myself first? Should I put others first? Or is there a way to honor all? And then the last one is, should I go for right now, yum yum, instant gratification, or am I going for something long haul? Okay? Thanks, Carmen. If I was sovereign, what would I do? And what is sovereignty? That's the other big one here. What is sovereignty? Really? Okay? Enormous. Just so you know, it's rare to have a blue moon. We have 2 this year, on January 31st and another on March 31st. And we're not going to have another one until 2020. For a blue moon that's a super moon to also coincide with an eclipse, hello, big deal. This is potent. And a big part of the reason why I named this year the year of power, money, and women. This is our chance to connect with the power of sovereignty, feminine sovereignty. What is it? Where does it come from? What does it change? How would I proceed if I was sovereign? Okay? As relates to all those things about us as women that I talked about at the beginning. Huge. Now, I do want to go back and re-emphasize this. Leo is about taking center stage. Leo is about being proud and putting yourself right in the spotlight, or putting issues or your voice in the spotlight. And as far as I can tell, given all these things, it is putting sovereign, what is sovereign and female, or the sovereign feminine, right in the spotlight. It means that we will feel compelled, individually and collectively, to move out into center stage, move out into the spotlight. Like, it's time for us to, this is a big fat, get out there. Get out there. Take center stage. Okay. Now let's take a look at the 2nd of the month, February 15th. New moon, partial eclipse in Aquarius. My goodness. This one's different because it's very closely associated. So it's Aquarius energy, which is not the same, but it is still feminine, just so you know. It's a very feminine orientation of a mental focus or a mental energy with communication at its core. Okay? So again, very feminine orientation. This one brings a focus on ideas and communication of those ideas. Okay? Whoa. Now I'll dive deep into that in a minute, but because this is very feminine again, it signals continuing rise in awareness and changing orientation in terms of leadership in communication and ideation for women. What we say, how we say it, where we're saying it, spotlight oriented. But the difference was this, because it is Aquarian, and I'm going to dive a little bit more into Aquarius later because it's one of the big themes of the month in general, is how do we say it as wide as possible, as fast as possible, as effectively as possible? How do we say what needs to be said now? As widely as possible, as quickly as possible, as effectively as possible. Okay? Now, because this is also teamed up in the way it is with a couple of other influences, there are 2 other things that really come to the focus. One, companionship, relationship. Big deal. Very, very, very big deal. And so bring in the conversation, the communication, the ideation. You put the 2 together, and we're going to have a lot more conversation about relationship, companionship, what it means, how it happens, or how it needs to happen. Think about all the stuff we were talking about towards the end of last year, beginning of this year, with the whole Harvey Weinstein blow up. Okay? So think about that with all of this. Sovereign femininity, communication about relationship and companionship. Okay. The second is health and medicine. Health, healing, and medicine. The added piece that's in here is the call, the drive in here to improve our lives with freedom, rights, and choice at the center of things. How do we live a happier, healthier, more enjoyable life that allows us more of our rights, more of our freedoms, more of the appropriate choices? If you've been trying to exercise right, to exercise your freedom, to explore your choices and exercise those choices, this is going to give you or your clients a really big boost. It's a great month, actually, to, starting the 15th on for 6 months. So just so you know, I'm kind of bumping things forward. The working on or offering a body of work that helps people discover their choices, exercise their rights and freedoms in a way that allows them to become more sovereign, particularly if they're women and they want a happier, healthier life. Big deal. Huge deal. So starting February 15th, or maybe even a little bit before, all right on through for the next 6 months. Big, good time. Now, there's a lot more going on in the collective conscious these days about what it means to have and exercise your rights and freedoms and have choice than we've ever talked about before. Okay? And that will need to be taken into account. And if you haven't begun to do that, I want to encourage you to begin to do it. Okay? These are changing times. There's a lot more layers to the conversations around rights, freedom, building a better life, et cetera, than we've ever taken into account before. And I just want you to know that you'll need to keep that in mind as you take advantage of these opportunities. Okay? Now, again, this supports women more than anybody else, or those who are wanting to have their feminine nature, the feminine aspects of who we are, sovereign and more present in our life. Okay? Kind of a big deal. All right? Any questions about that so far? Okay. So those are the two huge pieces that I wanted to make sure we knew about and could take into account and lean into individually and in our work and in our business for our clients, because rocking and rolling. I'm actually setting time aside both days to lean into this for myself. And I highly recommend you do too, especially if you're female, which I think everybody here is. Okay, so let's take a look at the rest of the month. The main new themes or month-long themes are Aquarius and Pisces. Now, Leo does play a big role because of the eclipse on the 31st, but it is very focused. The month-long influences of Aquarius and Pisces are the ones I want to focus on for you. So let's do what we've done in the last few months and look at each of these themes, the character of the themes, and then let's look at the influences that fall under those themes. We'll be expressing through those themes. And then you'll have a better sense of the unique way that they'll be expressing. So the call of Aquarius as an archetype is to collectively innovate and to do so through interactive discourse. So to collectively innovate through discourse. What Aquarius understands is that change begins with interactive conversation, connective conversation. So the desire of this archetype is to communicate on a massive scale. We talked about this just a moment ago, as close to immediacy as possible. So any form of media that helps communication take place and with interactivity. Okay, it's not I'm broadcasting to you, but we are discussing. We are conversing. We are exploring and innovating through conversation. So to do it on a massive scale, as close to immediacy as possible, with greater and greater effectiveness. So the effectiveness piece is one I want us to pay attention to as well. Because if you're communicating and it's not landing, or you're kind of looking at each other and nobody feels heard, something's not working. This is collective innovation through effective discourse, okay? Because one of the other things that this particular archetype knows is that nothing is achieved if it's attempted individually. The only way to affect real change is collectively. We affect change together. Okay? Now, the focus of this archetype is to shake up the status quo without throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Okay? So Aquarius understands that there's certain aspects of what's here that should stay, that are deserving of respect and acknowledgement, appreciation. And it also is like, we're not going to stay here. Things still need to change. This stays, that goes. Thank you to all those who built this, but we need to update it. It needs to be progressive. It wants to strengthen pre-existing structures, often communication structures. That takes precedent, but it's all structures that still serve. And disrupt those that no longer do. Because its intention and its allegiance is to progressive change that better serves the whole and the whole's future. So it's about reformation, invention, upholding universal equality and social organization principles that adjust and evolve relative to universal equality. And just for the record, if you've been paying attention to the headlines, our understanding of what is universally equality, that's getting a major update because voices that traditionally have not been heard, recognized, validated, legitimized are being heard more often and with more respect. And that means that social organization principles are being updated. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, so with this in the background in February and these two great big huge eclipses, the moons, oh my God, and the focus on women, I just want to say that women are being urged, stirred, called upon to be active forces of this in our own lives and with one another, for one another. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay? All right. So here are the moves throughout the month that correspond, that are drawing upon this energy. And I'm going to dive a little bit into each one so that you can get the individual feel for each one. Okay? So January 31st, we talked about because it's already there. But in addition to the eclipse and the blue supermoon, we have Mercury shifting into Aquarius, okay? Now, what this will offer us is an increased appetite or even hunger for knowledge that helps us be open to new and original ideas, new and original understandings. And they may seem original, but to us, they may be like, wow, but they may not be original to others. So just want you to know, it's paradigm shifting. It's like, I haven't seen that before. Wow. And a desire to learn more. The call to learn more so that we can participate in progressive conversation that moves the dial in terms of invention and reform. Okay? We're going to feel more compelled to think outside the box, to think in ways that are more objective. The tendency that has been alive in a lot of public discourse in the last 18 months, or maybe even longer, is to get a little hot under the collar, to take things personally, okay? To feel threatened by what is said or what we read because it kind of shakes the status quo or our view of ourselves. and our place in things. And what this will offer us is an ability to engage with new ideas that take us out of the box of our own thinking or view of ourselves or view of the culture in a more objective fashion, so we're less inclined to take things personally, to feel threatened. That doesn't mean that people aren't going to, but it might bring it down a couple of notches so we can hear and we can be heard more effectively, okay? And more quickly. Remember Aquarius theme. Okay? Now, communication is likely to be more spontaneous, like we have to, but it could be a little more fragmented. It might be a little challenging to connect the dots or communicate in a way where the dots are connected. We might have to work a little harder at that. That doesn't mean we shouldn't communicate, but I just want you to know that that piece in the background is likely to be present throughout the month and until around the 6th of March, okay? And you may need to take what you say spontaneously in the moment, collect those from wherever you've deposited them, bring them back, and then in the quiet privacy of your own office or your own life, look at them for the golden thread that runs through them, because there likely will be one. It just may take a little time to see what it is. And you may not be able to do it in complete isolation. You might have to do it with other people offering you a vantage point. It's not just your own, okay? Inventive thinking will be at its peak, but it wants to lend itself in the direction of Aquarian focus, okay? So that's January 31st until March the 6th. Background, okay? February the 3rd, Mercury, active, as we just mentioned, starts to partner with Mars. And that's a really interesting thing. Our minds will be, and our inclination to communicate will be sped up anyway, simply because of what we just talked about. Well, it gets an extra boost that day. It also means that sacred ambition, the drive to succeed at something related to or inspired by, driven by purpose, big deal. Big deal. So those of us who offer support around purpose, okay, it may be a really good day to put your hand up, to put something out on offer, because people who are looking to succeed, people whose sacred ambition is to find a way to live into their purpose and calling, particularly through a business or work in the world, going to be a big deal. And it will probably have impact throughout the month because it'll be riding the waves of the eclipse from the 31st. Okay? And it wants to be active. This is our action instinct, working with this, like, how do I communicate in a way that's active, that helps me move? I mean, it's a big deal. Okay? It's also a really good day to network with other people of like mind, like intention, but who go beyond the statement of intention to actually live in ways that are making their intention real. Okay? February the 4th, Venus, our charisma of cause, who's in Aquarius, starts to partner with our fortune finder, Jupiter. And that is, just want you to know, that's a day we're going to, like, many of us are going to feel like having fun. It will kick up a sense of optimism, a sense of generosity, a desire to be social. Like, big deal. I want to connect with my people. But not in a way that's about roll up your sleeves and get to work. On that particular day, and probably the day after, this is more about connection and enjoying ourselves and enjoying the connection. So if you happen to be someone who helps community build itself, good day to be doing that, but do it through some means that is about fun and interactive enjoyment. Okay? If you are someone who is in the hospitality field, good day. If someone is looking to use interactive socialization and enjoyment as a way to connect people. This is a good way, particularly if in the hospitality field. Okay? The one thing I want you to know about this is that because these two are partnering the way that they are, there's two things possible. One, money kind of becomes an issue because these two are both money archetypes. And when they're interacting this way, it can mean that it's easier for your money to go scoot, okay? Because the tendency is, just because of the way they're interacting, is to overspend, to overindulge, using money. On the flip side, so if you really don't want to do that, you might just put your debit and your credit cards away that day and the day after. Just go put them in a drawer and don't touch them. For those of us who actually sell higher ticket items, luxury items, particularly entertainment oriented, with a bit of a social or you know, hi, how are you kind of feel to it, it's actually a good day. Having said that, there's likely going to be a higher return rate after this particular effect wears off. So just keep that in mind. Could be a good day for increased business, and you just want to be careful. February the 6th, again, our charisma of cause Venus, who's in Aquarius, interacts with Uranus, our benevolent rebel. Again, this stimulates and will stoke our need for fun and excitement. That's why this vibe is kind of a big deal that week. Now, creativity is going to get stoked with this one. It's a slightly different feel to it. The desire for entertainment, the desire for social interaction, the combination of the two will still be there, but creativity takes on us, and it wants us to do so in a way that's out of the box. It has us meet people and experience things, or want to experience things that are unusual, uncommon, out of our own, norm. Original breakthroughs can be made in artistic or creative work this day too. So that's another thing I wanted to point out, so you could keep that in mind. And that will be active the 6th as well as the 7th. And remember, all that Aquarian, background, keep that in mind as we review these, because that'll be playing a big role in this, how it wants to focus. Okay? Networking, but out of the box. Okay? And for women. Gotcha. February the 10th, our sun, our force of nature, who is in Aquarius, will be interacting with Jupiter, our fortune finder. Again, kind of a big deal. It is likely to have us feeling proud and confident and optimistic and even kind of lucky and willing to go out there and, again, connect with people. So think about that whole period of time from the 4th all the way to the 10th, plus a day or so, where we're going to be feeling compelled to interact with each other and to enjoy ourselves as we do. All right? Okay. February the 13th, Mercury, again in Aquarius, is interacting with our fortune finder, but in a way that's kind of, okay? So let's take a look at that. It's really interesting because it's very future oriented, and it offers us a day or two that are really good about making plans. So all that energy and all that enjoyable social interactive conversation connection stuff that was happening, then we want to go, okay, so all that stuff kind of got my creative juices going. Now, how does it affect the plans I have? Does it change anything? Does it allow me to think in more expansive terms? Does it show me things I hadn't thought of before and now need to include? It gives you an opportunity to kind of check in and go, so do the plans adjust? And if they do, how do they adjust? Now, while planning, focusing might be a little bit tricky because both of these are very expansive and moving very, very fast. So focusing might be a little tricky, but if you help yourself kind of do that. what it can help you do is communicate to yourself through mental acuity, but also through the impulses or intuitions that kind of are sitting with you after the previous 5-6 days, for you to go, okay, so what does this change? What does this change? And how will that change be for the better? How will that expand opportunity? How will it expand my chances at creating good things, not just for myself, but for others? And how will that expand my capacity to communicate effectively so that everybody's opportunity increases? Okay? All right, now let's look at February the 15th. We talked about that a little while ago. That's the Aquarius new moon and the solar eclipse. Hello, and the Chinese New Year. Okay? The other thing that goes on that day is Mercury, our communication savant, teams up again with Uranus. And that, again, wants to bring us into stimulating conversations. We might have a hard time that day doing things that are routine. We might want to go, forget scheduling. So if you've got a scheduled day, and that's just part of how things are right now, because it might feel a little challenging to keep to the routine. What I want to suggest you do is maybe block off some time to participate in some stimulating conversation that takes you in unexpected directions. Because the opportunity that day is to have our sense of what's going on really stimulated through conversation that helps us become more expansive. And then able to act on that expansive sensibility once it really lands with us. Okay? It's a really good time, again, for networking. But again, what is networking? I don't like that word. So socializing that is thought-provoking. Socializing that is aimed at helping us have flashes of extensive insight. That's really what this is about. Now, those of you who lean towards intuition or even psychic ability, just want you to know that's going to be a big fat day. A little turbulent, but the doors are going to be open for all of us, and particularly for you. Okay? So that's the background with Aquarius. Now let's go look at the second major archetypal theme, and that's Pisces. Pisces' call is to reimagine through holism. Okay? To reimagine by taking stock of the whole. Its desire is connection of disparate parts by taking stock of the whole. So it's connecting it all. So we want to connect it all because we're called to reimagine things by taking in the scope of it all. The focus is to return to the culture what it has forgotten, repressed, or put aside. And to do that through awe, wonder, and a partnership with mystery. It wants to help us retrieve what we've lost, retrieve what we've denied, bring it back to the surface with the intention of helping us integrate it so what could be has a better chance of being. This particular archetype is the custodian of the possible, the master of the overview, the keeper of holism. But it brings with it some challenges, and I want to make sure you know about this, especially the spiritual among us, because it is really challenging with this energy around to be present, to be fully present, because it's like, I want to be touching the, it is watery, it's floaty, it's, okay? It's really tough to be present, so we have to work at being present. We have to work at being connected with the whole and be rock solid and grounded. Present. It is challenging to focus because the desire is to be in touch with the whole, and it's very easy to get swept away. Okay? So when folks are trying to live a purposeful orientation and be in touch with this, if they are not really clear where the boundaries of their purpose is, where the boundaries of what they're supposed to be talking about is, this one gets tricky. It gets tricky to work with really well. And so part of what might be going on for many with this is, how do I be in touch with that and draw in what I'm supposed to and remain present, grounded, and with, in my lane, so to speak. Okay? Many of us might find that that's the place to work. So I just want to say that. Okay? Those of us who are highly sensitive, this is going to make us more sensitive, because this is the archetype of sensitive, highly sensitivity. And it's the introvert's introverted position. Like, whoa. Now remember, we have a super full blue moon with an eclipse in Leo that's going, go out there. So these two seemingly paradoxical opposing positions are going to be working together to produce something, call out of us something that is extraordinary, really extraordinary. It's, how do I be in touch with wisdom, processing from sensitivity and introversion while answering the call to be visible and in the spotlight, representing the whole, bringing more of the whole into our view so that we can reimagine the possible. You hearing me? Okay. Now let's talk about the 4 influences that are working with this energy. Okay, so the first one is February the 10th, when our charisma of cause shifts into Pisces. Okay. So relationally, the focus on relationship and companionship is a big deal. There's one particular thing in the middle of it that I want to draw your attention to. If I was going to say anything about this particular day, the impulse to forgive, to understand, but from a position of power and sovereignty. Okay? So that you still retain boundaries, which is not always easy for Pisces. And not always easy for women who are trying to love everybody and take care of everybody within the social constructs and cultural rules that have been defined for us. Just got to say that. Okay? To forgive and to understand without becoming anything other than sovereign. Okay? Now, for those of us who are actively attempting to articulate our purpose, to arrive at a clear sensing of it, this is not the time. What it is time for is to lean in, because our longing for something that is ours, and the inarticulate sensing of it, the pre-verbal sensing of it, is going to be really active on this day and the following day. It will be both hard to define, but it will also be hard to satisfy. And so even though it may be hard, the longing will not be turned off. It just won't. And this is a good thing. Okay? All right. The 17th of February, our Mercury, our communication savant, shifts into Pisces. And that's interesting because he'll be there for about 28 days. And our thinking processes, and communication processes become more visual, or our attention will be given to the visual communication that happens all the time. How does that happen? What are we saying? Where does it come from? And I want to talk about coding and signals, because there's a lot of signaling that goes into visual communication that we are not even aware of. And so one of the things I'm seeing here for us as women, because of all the other stuff that's going on, is we're going to start going, so what is this visual trying to tell me? What is it signaling in me that I may not even be consciously aware of? And is there anything I want to do about that? Is there a way that I want to communicate through the use of visuals that could help change things? Okay? The same thing about following our intuition, following our imagination, but relative to those things I just talked about. To do so in a way that is intuitive and imaginative. And tapped into the world of emotion. So remember we talked about being sovereign but connected to emotionality? Guess what's getting drawn in here? And being brought into our communication. And that involves a degree of holism. More of us inside, please. More of who we are, what we're really about inside. Okay? Now, the objective of this, as far as I can tell, is consciousness raising communication and information, particularly through the use of visuals that's more emotionally wise and more sovereign. Okay? February the 18th, our sun, force of nature as we call it here, shifts into Pisces. We're going to stay about 28 days. And this will increase our sense of altruism. But that with the great big backdrop of the power of women thing, the sovereign feminine. Well, what does that mean? What does that change in terms of altruism and the call or sensibility to be more altruistic? Okay? Kind of a big deal. Now, the other thing that also comes into play in here is access to or the ability to be more effectively guided by a sense of universal connection, correlation. So how does this correlate to that? How does that connect to this? Like, does that make sense? So if we're going to be feeling altruistic for an extended period of time, like a little less than a month, and the spirit of holism is involved, and we've got a lot of Mercury going on, which is communication, savant, connection. To this, how does that correlate to this? So altruism begins to take intersectionality into account. Okay, how do these things intersect? And what happens to this as a discrete thing and this as a discrete thing when they intersect? Because they're not discrete anymore, they overlap, and something's going on here. Okay, that is going to be very alive. You add the pieces from the eclipses to this, and you get some very interesting things going on. Okay, the last one, February the 21st, our charisma of cause, which is in Pisces, starts to interact with Neptune. Now this one's going to last a few days. And again, it's very relationally focused. It's companionship, it's relationally focused. The potential for new connections through relationship is going to be a very big deal. Because these two want to work together to bring forward something that could only be brought forward in partnership or in relationship. But it also wants us to look at how the way we've been relating, how the way we've been often expecting or having active assumptions at play in the way we companion creatively has interfered with effectiveness in the past. So how does the larger dream of what's possible when we connect creatively together, how is that screwing with things? What's going on? Now, the only other thing I want to say about this is if you deal in offerings of beauty or in helping people bring beauty to life in their lives, in their work, in their business, important. I'm going to say February 20th, 21st, and 22nd are big days because the call to beauty is going to be almost aggressive, like rawr. All right? Okay. I'm going to go over the favored fields. There's more than 5. I'm going to do it fairly quickly. And if you have questions, please let me know. We're getting close to the top of the hour. So, power. We've talked about that. Personal, professional, cultural, structural. Emerging fields that will include and fold into ethics, intentional cultural shaping, collaboration, and ambition as sacred. Not ambition at any cost, but sacred ambition, okay? Second, life coaching for women, by women, about women, particularly working moms, particularly single working moms, okay? With a focus on rights, freedoms, and exercising choice, understanding choice, where does it come from, and whether or not opportunities as available for this woman who's single and has a child and could be a person of color over this woman, okay? Life design and purposeful living also come into play here. Culture changing for women, by women. Oh my goodness. Add a leadership component and wowza. So culture changing for women, by women, because that changes the nature of the conversation. It uncenters a bunch of things and creates a great big huge vacuum. And that's the place where all these conversations we've been talking about could take place. But there's opportunity galore in there. Relational coaching of all kinds. And I don't just mean intimate relationship. I mean relationship between two people who happen to work for the same company, relationship from, the person here with the people here, relationship, like all kinds of relationship. Health, healing, and medicine. Health, healing, and medicine. Big deal, all month long. Inventive thinking, ideation, and communication. How does that happen? Particularly given what we've talked about in terms of the big backbeats. And purposeful and spiritual business that practically, materially, and culturally serves and changes things. And for real. And the dial is moving on that one. So keep that in mind. Okay? That is live for February, my friends. Anybody got any questions? Oh, the next live is Thursday, March the 29th. You might want to pop that into your calendar now. Just stick it in your notes. A lot to cover. Anybody got any specific questions? Anything they'd like me to review or dive a little bit deeper into relative to you? You're welcome, Erin. You're welcome. Can we discuss the meaning of sovereignty? Yes, please, Lee. Go right ahead. Yeah, so Lee, as a one-off, yes, please feel free. As a rule, this is a community subscription thing only. So there are lots of people who say, yeah, share it plenty, This is a place where I really want to respect those who have actually subscribed and offer it to subscribers only. So if you really think that your group needs to hear this, by all means, share it once and then ask them if they want to be part of an ongoing discovery process that's communally based and pretty powerful, then ask them to subscribe. Does that make sense, Lee? From iPhone. That's how you'd like to preface it. I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, so let's go back to sovereignty. So Erin, I think discussing the meaning of sovereignty is an awesome thing to suggest. And I'd like to find out how many of you would like to participate in a conversation about that so that we have half an hour to an hour together as a community to explore it, ask questions about it, offer contributions to it. How many of you are interested in that? Okay, good. Because I do have to say that a lot of people have started using the word sovereignty, but there isn't an awful lot of explanation about what it means. And my take on that right now is that we are attempting to distinguish and define its meaning for ourselves. There's an awful lot of, it isn't necessarily being articulated this way, but we're recognizing that in order to live the kinds of lives, purposeful lives, free lives, and be the culture-changing purposepreneurs that we want to be, we have to question the definitions we've been living under and ask ourselves, well, is that what it means to me? We're beginning to recognize that we've been living under inherited definitions. We've been living within inherited roles. We have been enculturated by these things, and now we're not quite ready to just go, okay, I'm going to take that at face value. We are now asking ourselves, well, what does that mean? Yes, I want it. I can tell it resonates, but what does that feeling mean and mean for me? So I think the way to do this is to honor the Aquarian energy of the month and have active investigative discourse about it so that we arrive at a better understanding of meaning together. Fair? Okay. So Erin, I want to say thank you very much for suggesting it. It has been at the back of my mind. Active investigative discourse. So we can find out what meaning, because we are beginning to understand that if we're going to culture make, we have to understand what things mean. And traditionally what we've done is we've gone to Google, or we've gone to an authority, or we've gone to someone of power or status and said, so what does that mean? We've checked dictionaries or places of definition and gone, okay, I understand that now. But we've checked in out there for definition. And now we're like, wait a second. If we're going to culture create, maybe we should take back some of the meaning creation and definition creation that we've traditionally gone outside for. Okay? Does that all make sense to everybody? The same thing's happening in business all over the place. What is business? How does it function? How does it get created? How does it work? Okay? Well, we need to check inside, but to check inside in a very particular way. And we need to do it as individuals, but we also need to do it collectively. So there's a lot to this. So I'm going to, this is part of the question I wanted to ask everybody. You may remember that at the top of our time, we talked about, let me just go back and pull up my notes. Whoops, wrong one. So Uranus is in Aries. It's one of the three backbeats. There's Jupiter in Scorpio, Saturn in Capricorn, and Uranus in Aries. Uranus is staying there. He's a benevolent rebel. He's the one that is the trailblazer, the status quo buster. It is, you know, social change agent, you know, par excellence. He's shifting into Taurus on the 15th. And he's going to be there with a couple of segues back into Aries for years. And that's going to signal a whole bunch of stuff. And there's some other things going on in the background, in addition to Jupiter and Scorpio and Saturn and Capricorn, that together are signaling a years-long period of really significant change in particular ways. And I was like, you know, I can't really do a live and review what's happening each month in advance so that we can all lean in, you know, month to month and do a deep dive here. Well, so in addition to the sovereignty question, like, we are beginning to ask important questions like this. So I'm wondering, would you guys be willing to participate in deep dive classes that have us explore? So I would present some information if it's about a big shift that's coming up, but then I'm going to go, so we're going to be asking ourselves about this, we're going to be asking ourselves about this, we're going to be asking ourselves about that, and then we follow up with communal dives into those things, and that I would support and facilitate. Is that of interest to you guys? Okay. All right. Would you be willing to pay for it? Because in order for me to do this, I have to invest some significant time to do that. Okay. Now, I'd love to hear from you what you feel, some deep dive. So I'm thinking for the classes, for what's the big astrological shift that's coming? Archetypally, what's going to be going on? What do we need to know? What are the opportunities? What are the things we need to be aware of so that we can help ourselves manage them better? I'm thinking that would take 3 classes, and then we'd follow up with 3 conversational hours. So it'd be 3 and 3. Does that seem like something you could make room for, in addition to everything else you've got going on? Possibly, yes. Okay. Awesome. So I would like to ask you then, given the framework that I just mentioned, what do you think would be a fair price to ask for the development of these classes and the hosting and facilitating of the conversations? Okay? And whatever feels right, I just want to hear where you land. What do you think it would be worth? Okay? And then I want to come back and see. Please repeat the framework. So the initial 3 would be the astrological, the archetypal deep dives. What's coming? What's it going to mean? Where are the areas of opportunity over this period of time? What are the things we need to be aware of because we're going to have to navigate them? And what are the things we're going to have to work on? So that would take 3 hour-long classes. And then there would be follow-up, 3 communal conversations about the key themes that we're going to need to explore. I know you are, Joy. Thanks. Did that help answer the question, Erin? The framework? Okay, Carmen, gotcha. Okay. So you may not yet see, a lot of people are really uncomfortable when asked, so what would that feel okay to charge for? So everybody says, yeah, it's okay. Yeah, I'm totally get you about charging, but when asked, what do you feel it's worth? It's like, I don't want to say. I don't want to offend anybody. Anybody feel that way? I know I do. Okay. Thanks, Lee. So I want to suggest that you sit with the question. It is a hard question to answer. I want to suggest you sit with the question. Why it's hard to answer, what it is that's stirring up in you. Because this kind of conversation is kind of going to be part of what's coming. Okay? It's going to be part of what's coming. And understanding why it's hard for us individually and for us collectively is something we may need to look at in general. What it's worth to me and what funds are available don't always match. I understand. Okay. How many persons in the class to begin? That's an interesting question, Lee. I hadn't gotten that far, so I'm not able to answer that just yet. Sorry. Okay. Where do we look to find that answer? Society, our bank account? Those are good questions. And again, those are part of the conversation or the set of things that we're likely going to be considering when the shift shows up and begins to have effect. So believe me when I say to you, this wasn't just an exercise. I wanted us to start noodling this together because what's coming will take this into focus. Because a big thing that's coming is a change in relationship to money and money making. Okay? It is uncomfortable. I totally get you, Erin. It's uncomfortable for everybody, and we need to have the conversations. Okay? Okay, cool. That's right, Erin. This is when the money thing really starts to kick in. And as women who, let's face it, when we start to feel uncomfortable, what do we stop feeling in general? Powerful, right? Start to feel uncomfortable, we immediately start to feel, we stop feeling safe, we stop feeling powerful, we stop feeling like we have a voice. there's a whole bunch of stuff. Well, if this is a year of money, women, and power, and the moment we start asking questions about money, we stop feeling powerful. Okay? Okay. Awesome. Now, so I'm going to go away and do some thinking. If you have some additional feedback you want to share with me, please feel free to email me or pop it in a private Facebook message over the course of the next few days, okay, while it's top of mind for you, and let me know, okay? I really would love to hear. Has anybody got any other questions about today's review? I'm just looking back really quickly. And if you did pop one in and I missed it, please pop it in again. That's really interesting. Peg wrote a long time ago in therapy, I would always say to my therapist, I don't have the money for this. She would reply, it's never about the money. Is that true? Well, in my experience, it is often, and sometimes it's not. And a lot of the time in spiritual conversations, someone will say flat out, as the voice of authority, it's never about the money. And these days, I'm starting to take into account that sometimes it is. And that to deny that is a denial of that person's relative experience and the truth of societal circumstances. And we can't afford to do either anymore. That doesn't mean that what I know for myself is if I need something, I'm going to reorder my priorities so that I can find a way to help myself have it. Does that make sense? So if something is genuinely important and of high need to me, I will move heaven and earth. And there are times when in the kinds of work that we do, it is necessary. Like what we do may be absolutely necessary for somebody, and to help them to see that they may have to reorder things in order to make that accessible to themselves. That's an important thing, but there's also a conversation about privilege that needs to be taken into account around this stuff. And that's new. And a lot of us aren't thinking about that yet. So yes, and okay. Okay. If I paid myself for sleep, I'd be a millionaire. Okay, anybody else, any other questions? You're welcome. Thank you for going into this raw, uncomfortable conversation. So, Karen, I just want to say thank you for saying that. And here's why. You know, everybody's like, raw, a woman, a year of women, money, and power. And then the moment we start talking about money, what do? So if we want to be sovereign, if we are feeling called, if all this stuff is stirring us, and the moment money comes into the conversation, we start doing this, we got to lean in. We got to have those conversations, and we've got to help ourselves return or find a way to come to a position of increased power, personal power, collective power. And that will mean having some discomforting conversations, some frank conversations. Fair? You guys are on the ball. Okay. Okay, great. Thank you all. I'm Kim. I'll message you. Is it a good time to write copy? Okay, so quickly. That really depends. Because there's so much activity with Mercury going on, and because communication is a big deal right now, it very well could be. Provided that you're addressing some of these issues, you're on purpose, and you're leaning into the use of rapid forms of communication like social media. It's not the only one that I would consider. There's all kinds of other stuff. So here's one, Zoom. But yes, in general, if you're on the dime, on your dime, in terms of what you have to say, you're clear about it, and you know who your people are and how to speak to them, how they need you to talk to them about the issues that you address, So yes, it could be. I would also consult your own stars just to see if there's any particular dates that would be useful. But on the whole, yes, it's a good time for writing copy. But there's no specific date in the month of February. It says, write copy today. So overarching, yes. Within the frameworks offered, those are the places I would look. Okay? All right. Anybody else? And Kim, I will message you about the other thing that you mentioned in your private message. All right. All right, friends. It's about almost 20 minutes past the top of the hour. Thank you to all of you who hung out. Has anybody got any other questions specific to today's overview for February? I want to make sure I don't miss anybody. Okay. Hi, Kelly. You're welcome. Okay, I'm going to unmute everybody so you can say hello. Okay, just want you to know your microphone's going to go on. Okay? Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you all. Thank you all. Thank you all for making time again. Remember, we're back here at the end of March, the last Thursday of March, just before Easter, I think. If you have feedback about the thoughts about the classes, please let me know. I really do want to hear from you. And when I arrive at dates and whatnot, I will let you know. Okay?
Hey, Lisa, it's Emily. I'm on the phone, and so I couldn't type in the chat, but I do have just a little bit of feedback about the ideas for classes.
Yeah.
And I really love the topic that you brought up during today's session of understanding the parameters of our purpose. So kind of I forget the words that you use, but understanding almost like a scope of a purpose, so that
Yep.
if you don't understand what those boundaries are and you're trying to work with the purpose, then you can, I think that you can run into trouble. So immediately I'm like, I wish we could talk about that more. That sounds awesome.
Okay, so thank you so much, Emily. I so appreciate that. So folks, if there's a particular aspect of purpose, like the one that Emily just said, I want to learn more about that. I want to talk more about that. I would like let's dive in there. If there is something that you want, I want you to tell me. Okay? I can't promise we're going to cover it, but I want to know what you want to know. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I'm just going to say right here, I would love for all of us to be able to meet in person.
I would love that too. That would be awesome. That would be awesome. Thank you, Emily. So I'm just going to write that down in my own notes. Sovereignty is one. Oops. And then the guidelines of purpose.
Already? Yeah. How the hell's gonna hang over? At this point, what's
Just want to remind you all that your microphone's hot. So whatever conversation's happening in your part of the world, we're all hearing. Okay. Thank you. Anya, you wrote, what about end of February looking at March? You mentioned the end of March. Making sure there is one at the end of February. Oh, I'm sorry. I meant the end of February, Anya. Sorry.
February 22nd, right?
Let me just look at my calendar before we all say goodbye. Yes, February 22nd.
Yay.
I don't know why I said March. I think probably because I'm looking forward at the classes and what's coming with the shift of Uranus into Taurus.
While we're talking about it, what is the date for March again, please?
The date for March, let's look forward into March, and I believe that is the 29th.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
It's just before Easter weekend. Okay? Awesome. Okay. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. You all take good care. We'll meet again a month from now. Thank you for asking that question, Anya. I would have blipped right over that. And Kim, I'll be in touch about your question. Okay. Take good care, my friends. Mwah. Much appreciation to all of you. Bye.